acids, they are sour in taste. Most of these fruits, they contain acids, mostly citric acid, and acids have the property that when they are in their liquid form meaning aqueous solution, they release H plus ions. Okay, because they release H plus ions, they conduct electricity. Electricity is conducted when you have presence of charges. H plus ions are positively, so do you guys know what ions are?
Yes, ma'am, we learned it in chemistry.
Does everybody know what ions are? Amulya, yes, so litmus paper. Yeah, so some people have mentioned that there are, some people have mentioned litmus paper as well. Khushi and Amulya have mentioned that. So, yes, so you have litmus solution as well as litmus paper, both exist. So, if you want, like, you know, litmus solution will be like colorless, but when you add an acid to it, that litmus solution will turn red in color. And again, if you add a base to that colorless litmus solution, it will turn blue in color. Apart from litmus solution, you also have litmus paper, which is nothing but, you know, that paper will be, whether it will be in red or it will be in, you know, whatever, it will turn it into red or blue. So yeah, that just like litmus solution, you also have litmus paper. The thing with litmus paper is that whatever you are testing has to be in its aqueous form. That means in its liquid form, you will need to dip the paper inside it, and usually litmus solution is more accurate than litmus paper. Okay, so that is why we use litmus solution, but litmus paper is also totally fine. Ions are positively charged particles. You are partially right, ions are positively charged, but I wouldn't call it positively charged particles. I would say ions are, yes, in the UPrep app. So ions are positively charged atoms or molecules. Okay. Okay, so let's get back to the slides now. So because acids contain a charge, right, positive charge ions, they release H plus ions. Okay, so acids release H plus ions, and because H plus ions are charged, they conduct electricity. So anything that is charged will conduct electricity. Okay, so you have H plus ions, and hence they conduct electricity. So acids, remember, they change the litmus solution to red. Okay, now let us move forward. Okay, now there is another statement over here. If I put some metal in an acid, what happens? So if I put some metal inside an acid, what happens? So when I put a metal,
does it become a salt?
Sorry?
Does it become a salt?
No, it does not become a salt, but there is salt deposited on top of the metal for a little layer, but the entire metal does not become a salt. Okay. What happens when you put metal inside an acid is that hydrogen gas is released, and we will learn that further. But as of now, just know that, you know, something happens when you put metal inside an acid. What happens?
Does it burn?
Oh, acids burn. Yes.
No, ma. If we put metal in acids, will it burn? Will the metal burn? Or melt?
No, it will not. Okay. So let's go ahead. So yeah, indicator. So the most commonly used indicator is litmus. Okay. So for acids, litmus changes from litmus solution changes to which color?
Shades of red.
Red, very good. And for bases?
Shades of blue.
Very good. All right. So what happens when I mix an acid and a base? Becomes neutral. Unmana is saying yes, it becomes neutral. So we know acid is on one end of the spectrum and base is on the other end of the spectrum. They're kind of opposite to each other, right? So when I mix these two opposite things to opposite things together, what happens? I get a neutral substance. But sometimes I may not get a neutral substance. For example, if I use something which is very, very highly acidic and I use a weak base, okay? So if I use something that is weak base, that is a weak base, and I use something that is highly acidic, then the salt that is formed need not be neutral. In fact, it will be acidic salt because I'm using a strong acid and a weak base. If I use a strong acid and a strong base, then I'll get something neutral. But if I use a strong acid and a weak base, then I'll get an acidic salt. So when I mix an acid and a base, I always get salt. Now that salt may be acidic, it may be basic, or it may be neutral. Okay, not all salts are neutral. Is that clear to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. What happens when I mix? So when I mix an acid and a base, a salt is formed. Okay, so a salt is formed, but not only that, water is also formed. But why is the water formed? Can somebody tell me why water is formed?
Ma'am,
Okay.
because
Tell me.
because acids release H plus ions, and bases release OH minus ions. So meaning there is already one hydrogen and one oxygen, and then when another hydrogen combines with it, it forms water.
Very good. Yes, that is the reason. Okay, so I will explain that to others as well. Just hold on. So there is a question over here. The acid and base which are mixed equally acidic and basic, the salt will be neutral. Yes. So when I have an equally acidic and basic solution and I mix both of them, then that salt becomes a neutral salt. Okay, if I have something more acidic and something less basic, and then I mix both of them, then I get an acidic salt. And if I have something more basic and less acidic, and if I mix both of them, I get a basic salt. Does that make sense to everybody?